My name is John Koenig, and this is the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. Sonder. You are the main character. The protagonist, the star at the center of your own unfolding story. You're surrounded by your supporting cast, friends and family hanging in your immediate orbit. Scattered a little further out, a network of acquaintances who drift in and out of contact over the years. But there in the background, faint and out of focus, are the extras. The random passers-by, each living a life as vivid and complex as your own. They carry on invisibly around you, bearing the accumulated weight of their own ambitions. Friends, routines, mistakes, worries, triumphs, and inherited craziness. When your life moves on to the next scene, there's flickers in place, wrapped in a cloud of backstory and inside jokes and characters strung together with countless other stories that you'll never be able to see, that you'll never know exists, in which you might appear only once, as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk.
You are unique. And there are 7 billion others just as unique as you. Each of us is different, with some new angle on the world. But what does it mean if the lives we're busy shaping by hand all end up looking the same, easily replaced by 1,000 identical others? Vemodalen. So we all spread out, looking for scraps of frontier, trying to capture something special, something personal. As if we're afraid of being captured ourselves, so quickly pegged for exactly what we are, so easily mistaken for someone ordinary, just like everyone else. It should be a comfort that we're not so different, that our perspectives so neatly align, that these same images keep showing up, again and again. It's all right if we tell the same jokes we've all heard before. It's all right if we keep remaking the same movies. It's all right if we keep saying the same phrases to each other, as if they had never been said before. The powerful play goes on, and you will contribute a verse. And you and I and 7 billion others will leave our mark on this world we've inherited. But if, in the end, we find ourselves with nothing left to say, nothing new to add, idly tracing outlines left by others long ago, it'll be as if we weren't here at all. This, too, has been said many times before. The powerful play goes on, and when you get your cue, you say your line.
We take it for granted that life moves forward. You build memories. You build momentum. You move as a rower moves, facing backwards. You can see where you've been, but not where you're going. And your boat is steered by a younger version of you. It's hard not to wonder what life would be like facing the other way. Ave Noir.
Now, for you to create such a paradise, how would you do it?
You'd see your memories approaching for years and watch as they slowly become real. You'd know which friendships will last, which days are important, and prepare for upcoming mistakes. You'd go to school and learn to forget. One by one, you'd patch things up with old friends, enjoying one last conversation before you meet and go your separate ways. And then your life would expand into epic drama. The colors would get sharper. The world would feel bigger. You'd become nothing other than yourself, reveling in your own weirdness. You'd fall out of old habits until you could picture yourself becoming almost anything. Your family would drift slowly together, finding each other again. You wouldn't have to wonder how much time you had left with people, or how their lives would turn out. You'd know from the start which week was the happiest you'll ever be, so you could relive it again and again. You'd remember what home feels like and decide to move there for good. You'd grow smaller as the years pass, as if trying to give away everything you had before leaving. You'd try everything one last time until it all felt new again. And then the world would finally earn your trust, until you'd think nothing of jumping freely into things, into the arms of other people. You'd start to notice that each summer feels longer than the last, until you reach the long coasting retirement of childhood. You'd become generous and give everything back. Pretty soon you'd run out of things to give, things to say, things to see. By then you'll have found someone perfect, and she'll become your world. And you will have left this world just as you found it. Nothing left to remember, nothing left to regret. With your whole life laid out in front of you, and your whole life left behind.
Hey, John.
Onism. You are here. You were lost at first, but soon began sketching yourself a map of the world, plotting the contours of your life. And like the first explorers, sooner or later you have to contend with the blank spaces on the map. All the experiences you've never had. The part of you still aching to know what's out there. Eventually these questions take on a weight of their own and begin looming over your everyday life. All the billions of doors you had to close in order to take a single step forward. All the things you haven't done and may never get around to doing. All the risks that may or may not have been real. All the destinations that you didn't buy a ticket to. All the lights you see in the distance that you can only wonder about. All the alternate histories you narrowly avoided. All the fantasies that stay dormant inside your head. Everything you're giving up to be where you are right now. The questions that you wrongly assume are unanswerable. It's strange how little of the universe we actually get to see. Strange how many assumptions we have to make just to get by, stuck in only one body, in only one place at a time. Strange how many excuses we've invented to explain why so much of life belongs in the background. Strange that any of us could ever feel at home in such an alien world. We sketch monsters on the map because we find their presence comforting. They guard the edges of the abyss and force us to look away, so we can live comfortably in the known world, at least for a little while. But if someone were to ask you on your deathbed what it was like to live here on Earth, perhaps the only honest answer would be, I don't know. I passed through it once, but I've never really been there. There's an old saying, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. Anemoia. In looking at old photos, it's hard not to feel a kind of wanderlust, a pang of nostalgia for times you've never experienced. To sit on the side of the road and watch the locals passing by, who lived and died before any of us arrived here, who sleep in the same house as we do, who look up at the same moon, who breathe the same air, the same blood in their veins, and live in a completely different world. It's a world still covered in dust from the frontier. A world of adults whose lives are hammered out by hand. A world of front porches, of fires to light in the evening, of conversations over a fence. You'd watch as they carry on with their lives that seem so important. Even if their story has already been told. Even if none of it risks turning out any other way but the way it happened. But they carry on anyway. The past is a foreign country, and we're only tourists. We can't expect to understand the locals or why they do what they do. We can only ask them to hold still so we can capture a photo to take home with us. So we can sit for a few minutes in a world of black and white, with clean borders that protect us from the rush of time. Like a tide pool just out of the reach of the waves, that lets you linger in the moment, so clear and still, you can see your own reflection. Olika. Your life is a highlight reel, a gradual search for a handful of memories. We like to think that every moment has potential, that there's something transcendent hidden all around, that if you'd only stop to seize the day, you could hold on to it and carry it with you. But the truth is, most of life is forgotten instantly, almost as it's happening. Chances are that even a day like today will slip through your fingers and dissolve into oblivion, washed clean by the tides. The labor of keeping your body going, of hauling it back and forth across the same stretch of road, no closer than you were the day before. You keep breathing in and out. Things fall apart. You clean up the mess. And it all washes away in the night, to be built up again in the morning. You keep throwing the week against the wall to see what sticks, hoping you'll remember something that happened today. Anything. You begin to wonder if you're wasting your life, spending so much energy just pushing back against the current, keeping your small boat afloat, until you can finally say, Eureka, I've found it. But the rest of life is happening anyway, whether you'll remember it or not. You might as well say, Olika, I've lost it, as if to mark the passage of yet another opportunity flushed down the hourglass. A final toast to the endless forgotten days, whose humble labor has given you everything you have, at least for the moment. As the song says, long live the high tide and long live the low, but above all, long live the difference. Opia. So much can be said in a glance. Such ambiguous intensity, both invasive and vulnerable. Glittering black, bottomless, and opaque. The eye is a keyhole through which the world pours in and a world spills out. And for a few seconds, you can peek through into a vault that contains everything they are. Whether the eyes are the windows of the soul or the doors of perception, it doesn't matter. You're still standing on the outside of the house. Eye contact isn't really contact at all. It's only ever a glance, a near miss, that you can only feel as it slips past you. There's so much we keep in the back room. We offer up a sample of who we are, of what we think people want us to be. But so rarely do we stop to look inside and let our eyes adjust and see what's really there. Because you too are peering out from behind your own door. You put yourself out there, trying to decide how much of the world to let in. It's all too easy for others to size you up and carry on their way. They can see you more clearly than you ever could. Yours is the only vault you can't see into, that you can't size up in an instant. So we're all just exchanging glances, trying to tell each other who we are, trying to catch a glimpse of ourselves, feeling around in the darkness. Notice Tollins. Your life is a story. The days flip past, too quickly to absorb, a mess of seemingly random events. So you look back and highlight certain moments as important, as vital to the main plot. You trace each thread back to its origin, finding omens and ironies scattered along the way, until it all feels inevitable and your life makes sense. You already know how this story is going to end, but you're still eager to skip ahead, dying to know what happens next. But there are times when you look up and realize that the plot of your life doesn't make sense to you anymore. You thought you were following the arc of the story, but you keep finding yourself immersed in passages you don't understand. Either everything seems important or nothing does. It's just a mess of moments that don't even seem to belong in the same genre, that keep changing depending on what you choose to highlight. What kind of story is this? Just another coming-of-age tale, the same one your parents told, with the names switched around? Is your everyday life part of the origin story of something truly epic? Are you unwittingly getting by on other people's charity, mistaking your own luck for your own success? Are you a character in a romance? A tragedy? A travelogue? Or just another cautionary tale? Are you on the cusp of some heartbreaking twist, and this is the best it's ever going to be? As you thumb through the years, you may never know where it's all going. The only thing you know is that there's more to the story. That soon enough you'll flip back to this day looking for clues of what was to come, rereading all the chapters you skimmed through to get to the good parts, only to learn that all along you were supposed to choose your own adventure. Embido. The search for meaning is a search for missing treasure. You've never actually seen it, but you've heard stories since you were a kid. It might have been something you lost years ago, but ever since then you can't help but keep your eyes open, as if the answer will soon arrive in some windfall epiphany. That hunger stays with you as you grow up, though you're not so sure anymore that you're on the right track. Too many people make a mess of their own treasure maps, scribbled over with roadblocks and detours, but they're still asking around for a shortcut. You start to think you can feel it getting closer, that you can read the currents of everyday life and notice something gleaming just below the surface of things. But you find the deeper you try to dive into life, the more time you spend in the shallows. You just end up back on the shore, trying to go deeper again. The best you can hope for is to see where the road takes you, to let your mind wander and enjoy the ride, to find those moments when everything falls quiet and the words lose their meaning and it all mixes together, until you can't tell the difference between the ordinary and the epic, and you stop waiting around for some other meaning to arrive. You notice how delicate and fleeting it all seems, everything struggling just to exist. And you too are a guest on this earth, whose life is not just a quest or an opportunity or a story to tell. It's also just an experience that exists for its own sake. It's okay to linger in the shallows and take it all in. But even that won't bring you any closer to what you're looking for. It's easy to find, but impossible to hold on to. The first note is always the loudest. How quickly each feeling starts to fade as you adjust your expectations and protect yourself by gradually tuning out the world. Sometimes you reach a point when you can't feel anything at all, just a ringing in your ears. Until, like Beethoven, you find yourself pounding the keys of your life to feel anything at all, trying to make the ground thunder below your feet. You ye. It makes you wish you could look around with fresh eyes and feel things just as powerfully as you did when you felt them for the first time. Before expectations, before memory, before words. Of course, eventually it all starts to fade again. Until, like Beethoven, you look up from the keys and have to ask yourself, Ist es nicht schön? Is it not beautiful? Soha. There's an optical illusion that's easy to fall for, even if you know the trick. The more distant you are from other people, the more invulnerable they appear. You see yourself as you are, with your flaws just as clear as your successes. But you see most other people on their terms, only from the side they present to the world. And at first glance, they've got everything figured out, with everything set in stone, securely embedded in their community, wrapped up with their loved ones, their lives like a finished work of art. But it's only just a trick of perspective, because you can't see the cracks from so far away. How insecure their footing, how malleable they really are. How many years of effort went into shaping their persona into something acceptable. How many other hands it took to build their lives, which are still only ever a work in progress. It's the kind of basic human vulnerability that we'd all find familiar, but is still somehow surprising when we notice it in others. It's an open question why we have such public confidence and such private doubts. Maybe that contradiction is what keeps us moving, wanting to be more than what we are, and never be satisfied. Maybe it lets us keep our distance, to avoid too much friction as we brush past each other. Or maybe it's what draws us together, the only irreplaceable thing we still need each other for. Just one last excuse to keep stopping by, so we can prop each other up and remind ourselves that nothing is set in stone, not even who we are, or who we pretend to be. Canopsia. You can sense it when you move out of a house, noticing just how empty a place can feel. Walking through a school hallway in the evening, or an unlit office on a weekend. Fairgrounds out of season. It's usually bustling with life, but now lies abandoned and quiet. It's easy to forget that most of your memories happen in places that are still around. The walls mostly unchanged, with even some of the same people who carry on in your absence. But the world you once knew, and the people you still remember, have long since moved on, replaced by so many others who have passed through these doors. You try to stick around long enough to catch up with the memories, and finally linger in the life you spent so much time building up, hoping the world will stick around to keep you company. But eventually you'll pack up your things and walk through the house one last time. And not a day after you leave, it'll become someone else's new home. A blank canvas they'll fill up with their own memories, burying the life you built in a fresh coat of paint, leaving nothing but echoes of what was once here. Leaving the room not just empty, but hyper-empty, with a total population in the negative, whose inhabitants are so conspicuously absent they glow like neon signs. Maybe that's why we want to believe in ghosts. Maybe it's just a fantasy that our memories could be so powerful they'll leave a mark on the wall, that could mean something to someone else and can't just be painted over. We just want to mark our time here, to keep the rooms filled and the memories alive. And if our houses are haunted, it'll be because we're haunting them ourselves. as if there was ever such a thing as unfinished business. It's hard not to look at the ground as you walk, to set your sights low and keep the world spinning, and try to stay grounded wherever you are. But every so often you remember to look up and imagine the possibilities, dreaming of what's out there. Before long, you find yourself grounded once again, grounded in the sense of being homebound, stuck on the planet Earth. Astrophy. The more you look to the sky, the more you find yourself back on Earth, confronting certain possibilities. It's possible there are other names for our planet that we will never know. That there are constellations that feature our sun from an angle we'll never get to see. That there are many other civilizations hidden beyond the veil of time, too far away for their light to ever reach us. We dream of other worlds and name them after our old discarded gods. And they seem almost as distant, too far to be seen with the naked eye, only ever in artists' renditions, or a scattering of pixels on a monitor, with the colors tweaked to add a bit of flair. Even our own neighborhood is impossibly vast. We're so used to showing the planets nested together, because if we drew them to scale, they'd be so far apart they wouldn't fit on the same page. And even our own moon, that seems to hang so close to Earth, but still so far away that all the other planets could fit in the space between them. It's possible our spacesuits won't need treaded boots ever again. That one day soon we'll tire of wandering and move back home for good. And we'll get used to watching our feet as we walk, occasionally stopping to hurl a single probe into the abyss, like a message in a bottle. Maybe it shouldn't matter if anyone ever finds it, if nobody's there to know we once lived here on Earth. Maybe it should be like skipping a stone across the surface of a lake. It doesn't matter where it ends up. It just matters that we're here on the shore, just trying to have fun and pass the time, and see how far it goes. Xenocide. It's actually just after you're born that life flashes before your eyes. Entire eons are lived in those first few months, when you feel inseparable from the world itself, with nothing to do but watch it passing by. At first, time is only felt vicariously, as something that happens to other people. You get used to living in the moment, because there's nowhere else to go. But soon enough, life begins to move, and you learn to move with it. And you take it for granted that you're a different person every year, upgraded with a different body, a different future. You run around so fast, the world around you seems to stand still, until a summer vacation can stretch on for an eternity. And you start to feel time moving forward, learning its rhythm. But now and then it skips a beat, as if your birthday arrives one day earlier every year. We should consider the idea that youth is not wasted on the young, that their dramas are no more grand than they should be, that their emotions make perfect sense once you adjust for inflation. So for someone going through adolescence, life feels epic and tragic simply because it is. Every kink in your day could easily warp the arc of your story, because each year is worth a little less than the last. And with each birthday, we circle back and cross the same point around the sun, and wish each other many happy returns. But soon you feel the circle begin to tighten, and you realize it's a spiral, and you're already halfway through. As more of your day repeats itself, you start to cast off dead weight, and feel the steady pull toward your center of gravity. the ballast of memories you hold on to, until it all seems to move under its own inertia. So even when you sit still, it feels like you're running somewhere. And even if tomorrow you'll run a little faster and stretch your arms a little farther, you'll still feel the seconds slipping away as you drift around the bend. Life is short and life is long, but not in that order. Your life is written in indelible ink. There's no going back to erase the past, tweak your mistakes, or fill in missed opportunities. When the moment's over, your fate is sealed. But if you look closer, you notice the ink never really dries on any of our experiences. They can change their meaning the longer you look at them. Klexos. There are ways of thinking about the past that aren't just nostalgia or regret, a kind of questioning that enriches an experience after the fact. To dwell on the past is to allow fresh context to trickle in over the years and fill out the picture. To keep the memory alive and not just as a caricature of itself. So you can look fairly at a painful experience and call it by its name. Time is the most powerful force in the universe. It can turn a giant into someone utterly human, just trying to make their way through. Or tell you how you really felt about someone, even if you couldn't at the time. It can put your childhood dreams in context with adult burdens, or turn a universal consensus into an embarrassing fad. It can expose cracks in a relationship that once seemed perfect, or keep a friendship going by thoughts alone, even if you'll never see them again. It can flip your greatest shame into the source of your greatest power, or turn a jolt of pride into something petty, done for the wrong reasons, or make what felt like the end of the world look like a natural part of life. The past is still mostly a blank page, so we may be doomed to repeat it. But it's still worth looking into if it brings you closer to the truth. Maybe it's not so bad to dwell in the past and muddle in the memories. To stem the simplification of time and put some craft back into it. Maybe we should think of memory itself as an art form, in which the real work begins as soon as the paint hits the canvas. And remember that a work of art is never finished, only abandoned. While you're in it, life seems epic, fiery, tenuous, and unpredictable. But once you have some distance from it, everything seems to shrink, until it's almost out of focus. Kenophobia. When you look back over your life, or try to put it down on paper, you can see more of it now than ever before, and yet it seems somehow diminished, humble, almost quaint. So you begin scanning your life, looking for something interesting or beautiful. You see an ordinary house on an ordinary street. It looks smaller than you remember. You once had wild dreams and obstacles and risks looming all around you, but now they look smaller too. You remember giants and goddesses and villains, but now all you see is ordinary people, assembled in their tiny classrooms and workspaces, each of us moving around in little steps, like tokens on a game board. No matter how many times you rolled the dice, it was always these little moves here and there. Do a little work, take a little rest, make a little friend, throw a little party, feel a little boredom, have a little rebellion. There are so many of these token moments that we're supposed to represent some other thing. You keep adding them all up as if there was something you forgot to count, some stash of glory that fell off the back of a truck. And you may adore the life you have for everything it is. You know it isn't groundbreaking. You wouldn't change a thing. Maybe when you first started building the life you wanted, you left so much room for what might happen. You started losing sight of what was happening. Or maybe you were never in it to begin with, as if you knew even then that this wasn't the world you expected. A world so low and common you tried to keep your distance, floating somewhere above it, where nobody else could look down on this life you built. Nobody else but you. Of all the different ways we reassure ourselves, the least comforting is this: it's already too late. Malaysia. When you were born, you could have been anybody. So quick and malleable, your parents could look at your face and see a future president. They tried to mold you as you grew, but they could only work with what they had. And when their tools stopped working, they slowly handed off to you, asking, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" There's a certain art to becoming who you are. A teenage personality is a delicate medium. Its emotions are almost too heavy to handle. You have to keep yourself together and tease out the good parts without stretching yourself too thin. You can never stop moving for too long, or focus on just one side, or you'll fall out of balance and never stand on your own 2 feet. You can't ignore your flaws, but you can't just fix them either, and force yourself to change, even when you keep getting burned. But the toughest thing to master is the sense that your personality is hardening over time, that the fire that kept you flexible all these years is dimming, and you're becoming set in your ways. You can still recall the heat of youth that once kept you warm on a dingy couch or a night in the wilderness. At any given time, you remained untouchable. You knew that you weren't just you were also the person you will one day become, finding comfort in the lines, "I am not I am the one walking beside me, who stays calm and silent while I talk, and forgives gently when I hate, who walks where I am not, who will remain standing when I die." But now it's hard to deny that you are anyone but yourself. You are who you are, for better or for worse. And for all you're wondering what kind of person you are going to become, somewhere you forgot that question actually has an answer, and that one day will soon arrive, if it hasn't already. And now you wonder if you can change, even if you wanted to. If you have enough fire in the belly to surprise yourself. Or if you're now too hardened and cynical to stretch without shattering completely. Of course, maybe who you are is just fine, and dreaming of being someone else would only keep you from being your best self. Or maybe that doesn't really matter. Maybe it's already too late. Sometimes you move through the city and feel in your bones how strange and new this all is. The spectacle of modern civilization, just barely older than you are, with all its cramped logic, its rules and grid lines and rigid justifications for why the world must be the way it is. There's a part of you that thinks you are not at home here. It still remembers Eden and longs to return. Balu Garai. The story of humanity is a move from the countryside to the big city. But it's happening so fast that our brains are still stuck in the hinterlands. So now there's a part of you that longs to leave your car idling in traffic and flee into the wilderness. To live off the land, without tools or simulations. To experience nature in all its simplicity, raw, indifferent, and ferociously real. To feel the lushness and harshness of the wild, the clarity of eating and killing and growing stronger, the dumb luck of surviving the night. But a part of you knows that Eden is a fantasy, and you'll always be floating just above it, trailing clouds of civilization wherever you go. Even our ancient symbols of nature are deeply unnatural. The plants we eat are sterile, swollen, unrecognizable to the food chain. Our domesticated animals are caricatures of their wild ancestors. The family dog is just another piece of technology. And you too are a domesticated animal, shrouded in synthetic fibers and synthetic thoughts. Even if you sleep in the woods with a stove and a backpack, everything from the buzzing in your ears to the howling in the distance will be trying to tell you, you are not at home here. We need to believe in the fall from Eden. But all along, we were the ones who cast out the world, who stripped it naked, taught it good and evil, and barricaded ourselves in a walled garden. We couldn't handle the true state of nature, the overwhelming chaos, without first dividing it up into little boxes and little gardens. Maybe we were wrong from the start. In the beginning, there was everything. You were born on a moving train. And even though it feels like you're standing still, time is sweeping past you, right where you sit. But once in a while you look up and actually feel the inertia and watch as the present turns into a memory, as if some future you is already looking back on it. Debut. One day you'll remember this moment, and it'll mean something very different. Maybe you'll cringe and laugh, or brim with pride, aching to return. Or notice some detail hidden in the scene, a future landmark making its first appearance, or discreetly taking its final bow. So you try to sense it ahead of time, looking for clues, as if you're walking through the memory while it's still happening, feeling for all the world like a time traveler. The world around you is secretly strange. Some details are charming and dated, others precious and irretrievable, but all fade into the quaint texture of the day. You try to read the faces around you, each fretting about the day's concerns, not yet realizing that this world is already out of their hands, that it doesn't have to be this way, it just sort of happened, and everything will soon be completely different. Because you really are a time traveler, leaping into the future in little tentative steps. Just a kid stuck in a strange land without a map, with nothing to do but soak in the moment, and take one last look before moving on. But another part of you is already an old man, looking back on things, waiting at the door for his granddaughter, who's trying to make her way home for a visit. You are two people, still separated by an ocean of time. Part of you bursting to talk about what you saw. Part of you longing to tell you what it all means. Lutalica. You tell the world who you are in a million different ways. Some are subtle, some are not. But it doesn't seem to matter. This world has already got you pegged. When you were born, they put you in a little box and slapped a label on it, so they could keep things organized and not have to think about what's inside. Over time, you learn to make yourself comfortable, packaging your identity in different combinations, until you feel like you belong and can wear your labels proudly. But there's a part of you that never found a home, rattling around in categories that never really did you justice. You look around at other people, trying to judge how loosely they fit in their own lives, sensing a knot of confusion hidden beneath a name tag. And you realize we're still only strangers who assume we already know what the other's going to say, as if the only thing left to talk about is who belongs in what category and which labels are offensive.
You have to wonder if these boxes are falling apart, if we should be writing our identities by hand and speak only for ourselves in our own words, so we could take our chances out in the open and meet each other as we are, asking, what is it like being you? And be brave enough to admit that we don't already know the answer. Maybe it'll mean that we've finally arrived, just unpacking the boxes, making ourselves at home. And maybe one day we'll look back and wonder how we managed to live together in the same house for so long and never stop to introduce ourselves. For a million years, we've watched the sky and huddled in fear. But somehow you still find yourself quietly rooting for the storm, as if a part of you is tired of waiting, wondering when the world will fall apart. By lot, by fate, by the will of the gods, almost daring them to grant your wish. But really you can wish all you want, because life is a game of chance, and each passing day is another flip of the coin. Lockeism. You can't help but take this life for granted. Your eyes adjust to the color of the walls, and your ears tune out the chatter, as if your body's trying to filter out the world as you know it. And while your brain goes numb trying to shake off your complacency, your heart can't sit still, and your gut is hungry for chaos, itching to chase after storms and run headlong into the fire. To watch society break down and find out what's truly important and watch everything else fall away. The apocalypse is one of the oldest fantasies we have, but it's not about skipping to the end of the story. It's a longing for revelation, a revealing of what we already know, but cannot see. That none of this is guaranteed, and there's no such thing as ordinary life. That our civilization is just an agreement that could be revoked at any time. And beneath our rules and quarrels, we're stuck together on a wide open planet where anything can happen, leaving us no choice but to survive, to build a shelter, and find each other in the storm. And even just getting through the day should feel like the miracle it is, a cascading series of accidents that just happen to fall your way. But soon the storm will pass, and the world will go on spinning. And we'll pick up our lives just where we left them, no more urgently than before. After all, it's just life. It's not the end of the world. You were born with your head in the clouds, your future wide open, feeling almost weightless. Almost. Kudoklasm. You had dreams even before you had memories. A cloud of fantasies and ambitions, of secret plans and hidden potential. Visions of who you are and what your life will be. They keep your spirits high, floating somewhere above your life, where the world looks faintly hypothetical, almost translucent. But every time you reach for the sky and come away with nothing, you start to wonder what's holding them up. Surely it would have happened by now. You feel time starting to slip, pulling you back down to earth, even as you tell yourself, don't look down. You don't have the luxury of floating through life, because you may not have the time. The future is already rushing toward you, and it's not as far away as you think. It feels like your life is flashing before your eyes, but it's actually just the opposite. You're thinking forward to everything you still haven't done, the places you had intended to visit, the life goals you'd eventually get around to, someday in the future.
You start dropping your delusions one by one, like tossing ballast overboard. And soon the fog lifts and everything becomes clear, right until the moment your feet touch the ground. And there it is, the real world, as if you've finally grown up, steeped in reality. Your eyes adjusting to the darkness, seeing the world for what it is. But in truth, you don't belong there. We dream to survive. It's no more optional than breathing. Maybe the real world is just another fantasy, something heavy to push back against, to launch ourselves still higher. We're all afraid to let go, of falling into a bottomless future. But maybe we belong in the air, tumbling in the wind. Maybe it's only when you dive in that you pick up enough speed to shape the flow of reality and choose your own course, flying not too high and not too low, but gliding from one to the other in long, playful loops, to dream big and bounce ideas against the world and rise again, moving so fast you can't tell where the dream ends and where the world begins. Moment of tangency. You and I have never met many times before. Our paths might have crossed once or twice online, or passing in the street. We might have lived in the same neighborhood all our lives, but against incredible odds, we just happened to miss each other. It's a big world, after all. Our days must be filled with these chance encounters that for a million tiny reasons never actually take place. Accidental strangers who just happen to miss their cue, who share everything in common except for time and place. For years, their stories might have been happening in parallel, harmonizing from somewhere across the world. But neither has any idea that the other even exists. If two lines are truly parallel, it means they'll never actually meet. It's hard not to wonder where they are right now, veering away in a tangent in some parallel universe. Hard not to glance at a stranger in a crowd and imagine the life you might have shared if things had been different. And feel a pang of missed connection as you carry on your separate ways, leaving nothing but an echo of something that might have been. You never know how many things had to happen exactly right for you to meet the one you love. You never know how easily fate might have tipped you onto some other course, meeting some other person who would feel like a soulmate. Maybe you'd still be telling your friends it was always meant to be. Or maybe you'd look back at your life and realize it was nothing personal. It's all just a coincidence. You never know. Strange how strong the instinct is to see something incredible and reach for a camera, as if to lend it some credibility, to prove that it's real, that I was here. Mori. We live our lives in moments, in those rare experiences we stop to notice and carry with us, in the hopes of stringing them together, trying to tell a story. But even in the moment, you can feel it start to fade. So you try to capture it and convert it into something that will last longer than just a flash. And over time, a photo feels more real than its subject. It lets you build a version of the world that you can take with you. world flattened and simple. A world that doesn't change, that fits in the frame. A little brighter and more colorful. With everything under control. You can travel the globe looking for memories and still find yourself standing behind a camera, waiting for the world to hold still. With every click of the shutter, you're trying to press pause on your life. If only so you can feel a little more comfortable moving on, living in a world stuck on play. A part of you knows that you can't take it with you, but that doesn't stop you from trying. What if I could stay just a little longer? What if we didn't have to go? We try to capture moments as if we're afraid they'll escape, but they'll get away eventually. Take one last look. One more shot. So years from now, you can flip back through and try to relive it all over again. But maybe even then, you'll be thinking to yourself, ah well, I guess you had to be there. It's fun to think of your favorite artists back when they were just starting out, playing the sidewalk in total anonymity. It makes you wonder, if they were right there in front of you, would you have noticed? Salience. Strange that something so vibrant as art is so nearly invisible. Strange how rarely we stop to savor the details, or hear the music playing in the background that's far better than it has any right to be. It's only after someone points it out that you finally catch the tune. It makes you wonder if there's brilliance all around you, hiding in plain sight, just waiting around to see if you'll notice. Who knows how many Kafkas and Van Goghs you might be walking past. Maybe the next J.K. Rowling is living just down the street. Maybe she doesn't even suspect it, any more than we do. We assume that if a piece is any good, surely it'll find an audience. But maybe it's mostly luck. Luck that they're not already famous. Or luck that the right person just happened to look up. One never knows how two people find each other, if they ever meet at all. Imagine how much courage it takes to show up and keep playing anyway, hoping it'll resonate with someone passing by, though it won't happen for everybody. To keep pouring your heart into something, even if it falls on deaf ears. Reaching out in the face of indifference, trying to give people permission to care. Indifference is easy. It takes a lot of courage to fight back against it. So maybe we should stop and count ourselves lucky that there's still someone out there fighting the good fight. Paro. We have just as many questions as we did 1,000 years ago. But now the answers are never far away. Turn on a screen and you're drowning in answers. Right or wrong, there they are. So that feeling of not knowing, of having to wonder, only lasts for a few seconds. And then you carry on with your day, following the optimal route to the optimal places, which leaves you little else to do but mutter to yourself, I know, I know, I know. It makes you want to slow down a little bit and hold on to the question, just to see where it takes you. Irath. There's some beauty left in mystery, in the feeling of not knowing. Letting strangers be strange, letting the wilderness be wild. You might think of it as putting on blinders, but really it's a loosening of focus, seeing clearly how distorted and murky, how unknowable the world is. It's worth taking a step back once in a while, to soak in that feeling of lostness, and remind yourself how little we really know. If you look past the headlines, our view of reality is not in high definition. We don't really know how electricity works, what gravity is, or virtually anything about time. We have no idea what our universe is made of. The vast majority is some dark substance we're not even sure how to measure. We can't even count how many planets are in our own solar system, because we're unable to see that far out. We mapped the world long ago, but still haven't touched the third dimension, the ocean depths, still dark and uncharted, filled with alien creatures we don't even know exist. Most living species have yet to be given a name. There are probably a handful in your own backyard that are completely unknown to science. We're not really sure how to tell whether something is alive or whether a living thing is conscious. We still don't know why we sleep, why we dream, why we pray. We don't need to go looking for some lost world, wild and unexplored. We already live there. We just prefer not to see it that way, feeling safe inside our little bubble of certainty. But in truth, the universe is still a wide open question, growing wider with each passing moment. Someday we may look back and realize we were still in the dark ages. Maybe we should count ourselves lucky we were born so early in history, back when it was still possible to go outside and savor a moment of in-betweenness, in these lingering pools of mystery where there are no answers, where all you can do is wait and watch, hoping for a glimmer of something real turning in the deep. You have no idea what's going to happen, if anything happens at all. So you might as well sit back and thank the gods it's still possible to get lost in the middle of nowhere, humming softly to yourself, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.